What's up, gamers? Welcome to Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 59. For those of you that aren't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast is the journey of three busy gamers playing games that they love, balancing life with those games, and making their way to the Nova Open convention every year. On this episode, I have a special guest, Bryce Martin. Bryce, you want to say hi to the listeners?
Hey, everyone. Bryce, super excited to be here on the Battle Mallet Podcast.
And I am Jerod Johnson, your host for the evening. Trace and Jason are both busy, but we wanted to give Bryce a podium to talk about his experience at the Cherokee Open, his experience with this fascinating Zandire's Truth Seekers plus Breakneck Slaughter deck, and most of all, just give the Underworlds community a chance to get to know Bryce better a little bit. But before we get into all of that, we want to catch up with what we've been up to. So, Bryce, hobby-wise, game-wise, what have you been up to, I guess, since Cherokee Open?
So, I'm still not burnt out on Underworlds. Even though I played a lot of practice games, played a lot of games, high-level games at Cherokee, still enjoying it. Currently painting up Gore Chosen of Drom, because I've been really enjoying them as a new war band, and then also been painting up some. I play a lot of skirmish games, and I've been really getting into the Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone game by Monster Fight Club. So I'm painting up models for that, and really just doing a lot of hobbying right now between events. Just hobbying, painting's my favorite part of the hobby. So I love to paint. It's so much fun to me. It's relaxing. It's how I kind of deal with my end of the day. So that's pretty much what I've been mostly working on.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. So you brought up Monster Gaming. They have a Metropolis terrain line, which I use for Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is part of what I've been up to lately. So we are recording here on March 3rd. Last week, I was in Las Vegas for work. I get home, red eye back on Friday, March 1st. I land, and then at 10 a.m., I get an email in my inbox that my local gaming store has my 3 boxes of Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures ready for me. I have 3 of the 6 miniatures built. So for anyone that doesn't know, the boxes include Nightcrawler, Bishop, Iceman, Shadowcat, Professor X, and the Shadow King. And I have currently built Nightcrawler. I put the swords in his hands, and I put the Banff words, comic style words, under his base. I have the whoosh in full glory on my Deadpool for that game. So I figured I should have the Banff as well. And I built Bishop with the bald head. Normally I am like a classic 90s,
right.
I mean, that's when I started, right? But I started painting my miniatures. All of my mutants are in some sort of black, white, or gray theme. Oh, and so that keys into Bishop's later runs of being around X-Force, against X-Force, but not in that classic blue and yellow uniform, not with the classic mullet. So I figured we might as well change the head so that, I'm not too close to the theme. And then I built Iceman, and he is like super cool on his ice sled as a miniature. Like the sculpting team, the design team at Atomic Mass Games they've just continued to improve their skill, both in their ability to sculpt miniatures, but more importantly, their ability to like slice the miniatures so that when you put it together, the mold lines aren't there. That's something that GW has gotten down pat really well lately, and it's cool to see other people in the industry following. So anyway, before we get too far down this rabbit hole on this very Underworlds focused episode in Marvel Crisis Protocol, that kind of covers what I've been up to lately, outside of playing a handful of games, participating in the local Underworlds League, and with all that. So I think what we'll do after this very short intro is we'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll ask Bryce those questions that we always ask our guests around their gaming history, kind of how they got into miniatures and Underworlds. And then we'll just talk to them about the Cherokee Open, just kind of have a loose conversation and see where things go from there. So we'll be right back. And we're back. And now we have the opportunity to get to know Bryce a little bit better, hear about his experience at the Cherokee Open, and just talk about Underworlds for a little while. So, Bryce, every guest that we have, we ask them the same 3 questions. It was funny. We've had guest members that are co-hosts of other podcasts before. We had Skylar and Brian from What the Heck's On. And Davey remarked later that we did a better job of introducing Skylar and Brian than they did when they brought them on. And so we take a little pride in these questions. But it's just an opportunity for listeners out there, the Underworlds community, to really get to know any of the guests that we bring on in a deeper way. And it's the questions that we started our podcast with. So if you haven't listened to episode 0 of our podcast, you should go back and listen. The sound quality is horrible because none of us had good equipment at the time, but you'll hear from myself, Jason, Trace, and the gone but not forgotten from the podcast. He's still alive and doing really well, but just has fallen out of Underworld, so doesn't participate in the podcast anymore. Danny, you'll hear how we got all started in our journey. But anyway, so we'll start with the first question. What is your first memory of board gaming?
So my first one was my dad was kind of always looking to do family stuff with us. We were kind of always doing family like things together, and he brought home a copy of Catan. That is the first game I really remember, like my whole family playing together. Me, my younger brother, my dad, and my mom sitting around playing Catan. That and Munchkin. Those were like the two games that really got us in to like board gaming, and kind of never really strayed much farther from that. For them, I kind of went more in depth with it, but that was like my first real thing I got into.
But what a great start.
Yeah.
Like you didn't get bogged down with Monopoly or Sorry or Trouble.
We had those, but not as big a thing. Like I had a Pokemon Monopoly because I was a big Pokemon kid.
Sure.
That was like it, but like we didn't play like a lot of those like Life, Monopoly, other games. We didn't really do those because I had older cousins who played like Catan and Munchkin and got my dad interested in playing them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great start. And it's funny because I'm sure if you're like me, you look back at Catan and you're like, when you first played it, you're like, this is the most amazing board game I've ever played. And if you've played any other like slightly more complex or like more choice oriented games, then you realize that Catan is really just the gateway into like the Euro board gaming kind of boutique board gaming scene.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So Catan, Munchkin is D&D adjacent. So, I mean, how long did it take you to go from Catan and Munchkin into miniatures?
Long time, actually. So I was more of a board game role-playing game guy. I've been a role-playing game guy for years. I love role-playing games. It's kind of my big thing. But about 10 years ago, I started working at a local game store here where I live in Georgia when it opened. And a lot of them were into miniature games. And the gig game that we got that no one else yet had in the U.S. was Guild Ball. And that's where I got my miniature game start. I loved Guild Ball. I'm still sad to this day it was unfortunately killed off, but that was my bread and butter. I traveled all over the Southeast for that. I was highly competitive in that, probably, like no joke, top 10 US player for that. I mean, I loved that game. I still love that game. I'm very sad what happened to it, but that was my gateway, was Guild Ball. And I mean, that's what I stuck with for years.
Yeah.
And only played that game. Was very competitive. Had a group called the Dojo out in South Carolina that we played with, and I joined up with them, and 60-person events every 2 weeks, stuff like that. Like we went hard into that game. But that's where I got my original start, was just picking up that and then sticking with it as my game for years.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I have played a handful of Guild Ball games in my lifetime. So a long time ago, when the group that I was a part of kind of shrunk down to where we are now, decided that the large scale war games were not the games for everybody in the group. One of the gamers in the group had purchased a handful of the Guild Ball teams. I really liked the mechanics of it in that it was different from anything that GW was producing at the time.
Right.
But my head could not get around the sports ball aspect of it. Like I just wanted to do combat, and there were not many teams that could really win the game by just doing combat. Like you had to utilize like the different roles that each team member played to actually move the ball around and score points. It turns out
very complex game. I think
Yeah.
it's probably one of the most complex, I think, competitive games that I've ever played. But I mean, I loved it. Like I said,
Yeah.
I looked at the miniatures the other day. I still have a beautiful painted Brewers team here at the house, and I'm like, God, man, sad moments sometimes,
Yeah.
but great moments as well. Like I said, for years that was what I did.
Yeah. The miniatures were awesome. I think
Yeah,
one of the teams, the memorable teams, that was like the
the
fishermen.
fisherman. Yeah,
Yeah. With nets and harpoons and
gorgeous model.
all sorts of stuff. Yeah. They were cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So you played Guild Ball. I'm going to ask a 2.1 question here
Yeah.
is, how did you get into Underworlds?
I actually got in when it started. I remember when the box set was coming out. I was living kind of far away from anybody else. I had moved to northern Idaho after I got married and was like not really playing. Nobody played Guild Ball. It was all I really played. And Shadespire was just coming out. So I
Okay.
literally said, I'm going to buy this. I met some local people, played that till Nightvault. Ended up just being in a situation where I was moving a lot and just not having the opportunity to buy everything. Championship kind of made it hard for me to play because I had to buy all the cards and do all that. So I dropped out of it. But then when Gnarlwood came out with the full on Nemesis rules, I said, I'm not playing anything at the moment. I kind of dropped tabletop gaming or released miniature gaming for about a year. And I said, well, let's give it another go. Let's see what it is because I really did enjoy it. And yeah, I fell full force back in and I've loved it ever since. And I've bought as many warbinds as I possibly can from the old ones to try and get everything back that I used to have because I ended up selling all my old stuff. But
Sure.
it's been a long, really fun dive. I love the system. I love the rules, the simplicity of everything, but also the deck building. There's just so much to it. I get to enjoy painting a bunch of models without having to paint. Like I love goblins, but I will never paint an AOS army worth of goblins.
Sure.
So it's nice to paint 7 and not like 200.
Right.
So I really enjoy that.
Yeah. That's yeah, I feel like Underworlds is if you're into the AOS aesthetic, it is like the painter's dream game
Oh yeah,
because every, 3 months you get 3 to 7, I guess,
yeah,
well sculpted, well detailed miniatures that are different from anything that you would have painted recently,
right,
just because of the release cadence and stuff. I mean, I I enjoy painting as the cathartic exercise, and
yeah,
I have painted 3 models in my lifetime really well. But for the most part, I am in let's get it done to what I would call a tabletop plus standard.
yeah,
Uh, but I have enjoyed the fact that I can complete a whole finger quotes army
yeah,
by painting 5 miniatures.
right. That's for me too. It's like I love, and you can like you said, you switch it up. So I paint 7 goblins and I paint 5 skeletons. With Velmore, and then I can paint 3 Stormcast. Like the
Yeah,
opportunity to really switch it up. And I'm similar to you. I paint to a pretty good, I feel like good standard, but as I've gotten older, my hands don't work as well as they used to. So
yeah,
I can't paint as well as I used to, but it's still just a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it.
yeah. That's awesome. All right, so start at the beginning. So you actually started before me. I did not start playing until Iron Skull's Boys dropped, which was not too far after the release.
Yeah,
But Trace and Jason, I mean, they were in from day one. Like they pre-ordered it. They got the cracked glass limited edition Garrix Reavers and Steel Hearts Champions cards. I didn't get those until later from a prize pack, um, but managed to stick with it. I think being in a local community where people played, we used to do Garage Hammer back in the COVID days. So
hmm
open the garage door, put on the masks, and sit at a folding table and play some Underworlds for a few hours, and then call it a day. Um, but I'm with you. Like it feels like Gnarlwood has really revitalized things in this Nemesis format. So
right,
like, even though I had been playing the whole time, when Gnarlwood was announced and the Nemesis format was announced, we were like, this is it. Like this is how Underworlds comes back. This is
right,
how this game that kind of fizzled out during the pandemic, reaches back to where it was. And Not only were we seeing, close to record attendance at events, but there are more events now than ever.
Yeah, that's really
So
for us too. In the Georgia meta, at least, it's grown because people said, I used to play this game. I got real tired of it because of Championship. I don't want to collect it all. And then Nemesis came out and they said, absolutely, like this is what I'm looking to do, which is buy most of our team. They don't buy everything, but
right.
they just kind of pick and choose what they like. One of our guys is like, I only play Garrick's Reavers. That's like his only warband he plays, so he just buys the stuff that works for them, and then that's
Perfect.
it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. All right. So, what's your favorite warband?
The one I just won with, Xandire's True Seekers, is my
Yeah.
favorite warband of all time. I
Okay.
am not a Stormcast guy at all. I don't. They're not really the aesthetic for me, but I love the models for that warband, and I have to give a shout out to Sleek's Bowl because their deck with the Tooth and Claw build, they did Truth and Claw,
Yes.
was very like it made me go, huh, I really like this warband. I painted them really well. I want to play them. That's what got me into playing them, and then from that moment on they're like my go-to pick a warband and show people all the game. They're a very good teaching warband as well because I do a lot of demos and teaching in our area.
Yeah.
But they're also just really fun because they play every aspect of the game. You have a very accurate fighter, a very high damage fighter, a ranged fighter, and then a pet because everyone's got to have a cool pet in Underworlds, and I just love that about that warband. The opportunity to kind of play all different sides of the game with one warband and kind of pick and choose what you want to play when you're playing games.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, Xandire's is one of my favorites too. I mean, for exactly the same reasons that you mentioned. They're great to demo because they do showcase like all aspects of the game. There's even a wizard in there. I think everybody forgets that Xandire's a level 1 wizard, that there's a spell in their rivals deck. But
I did a Force of Frost build. I tried it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great,
yeah,
but it wasn't
it
bad.
wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. No, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you. Cool. Well, there we go. So now everybody has had the chance to get to know you. They know your miniatures history. They know your Underworld's history. And so now I think we can get into Cherokee Open. And I do want to say that this was an event that was on my radar, and then I got tapped to travel for work, and it was literally like I flew out the Monday after Cherokee, and so it was 100% a no-go. Like, there's no way that my wife is going to let me drive all the way to Cherokee, even though it's in North Carolina. It's still like 4.5 hours away. Get back late Sunday night, take off early Monday morning, and I'm not going to do that to my kids. Like, I'm going to miss my kids while I'm at work, and Underworlds is fun, but it's not miss time with my family fun. So I guess my first question is, so Cherokee Open, I get it really ran. Did it run Friday through Sunday?
So
not
think
the Underworlds event, but the big event
Thursday
itself.
through Sunday, actually.
Thursday through Sunday.
They had 40K games there, I believe, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then AOS was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They might have actually had 40K all 4 days.
Yeah.
Because I know some people said that they played 40K there. The Underworlds was only there one day. We only were there Saturday, and then Sunday we did a Rivals.
Okay.
Or not Rivals, but as Zach called it, Underworld Speed Dating. It was 5 best of 1 games where you brought a different pairing than what you brought to the World Qualifier the day before.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. When did you get there?
So we rocked up Friday afternoon. Zach and I rode up there together. Super excited to do it. I want to give a shout out to a butcher is the last name, but his name is Kicker Kaladze from Frontline Gaming, who helped us get this all set up. Absolutely amazing guy. Made us our own like personal trophy plaque for us to take home for whoever the winner was. Easy to work with, always responded to emails. Let us stay later than technically, because we stayed late Saturday. We were drinking and playing some 4-player games, and he was like, stay late as late as you want. Like, very cool guy, but I want to make sure he gets a shout out because I've worked with people who have run tournaments and done things, and the respect that he showed us, and also just the kindness and willingness to let us run this event for the first time at Frontline in Cherokee was amazing to have.
Nice.
But we got in late Friday, played a couple of games, just kind of get set up. I had brought some extra war bands for us to play with and just not showing anybody because we were a little bit cagey on showing everyone else what we were playing. Normally we don't care, but I was like, this is a qualifier. This is
right.
I had a little bit. So we played a couple games. I'd really wanted to try another crack at Looncourt with Void Curse now that they've had their update. We played a couple games of that, and my buddy Zach for Sunday had brought Kagra's Mask, so he had been wanting to really test that deck out. So we played a couple games of that. It was a long day. We had driven there. It took us about 3 hours or so, 3.5 or so hours. Got up there, checked in. Hotel was nice. Venue was nice. The casino was nice, even though it was a lot of people were very much like asking us like, okay, so you're holding game boxes, can you tell us what this is, because we have no idea what this is. And I'm like, oh, we're gambling, but it's just a different set of dice than what you're used to.
That's funny. So when you get checked in, like, I mean, was stuff happening? Like, was there like an event hall where people were gaming? I'm assuming there were like no vendors or whatever, right? Like it's just the games and hanging out.
Yeah, it's pretty much Frontline has their own like thing. It was really nice. They actually had a bunch of sprues that you could buy for different GW game systems, which I thought was really cool. So if you wanted bits and things like that, they had whole tubs that were like, this is just a Slaves to Darkness. This is a Space Marine box. You can just pull out and buy sprues and stuff, which I thought was cool. But that was it. Other than that, they had 2 streaming tables, one for 40K, one for AOS. Big kind of conference hall. They also had food, 2 buffet lines in the back. That was kind of nice to not have to go off site for food
nice.
Or go down to the restaurant. You could literally eat while you played. So we got to do that. And there was also a full staff bar back there. So they had a bar as well for drinks while we played. So it was really nice to go in and kind of see. There were mostly 40K players playing, and the AOS event hadn't started yet, so that I think was just Saturday, Sunday. But they had 40K players, and we went kind of to our area and just played some games. Met up with everyone as they trickled in, kind of Friday night, because there was a couple of different. We ended up with 8 total people who showed up for the event, so it was nice to kind of see some people, some locals that had come to some of our events, and also some new faces as well.
Okay, cool. So you get in Friday, play some games, go to bed at a reasonable time. I assume you're not like hitting the craps tables or the blackjack table. That would be my downfall.
I just played too much Underworlds.
Yeah. So Saturday's the big day.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I guess that there are 8 players. So when you get so what time do you start?
We started pretty early. I believe we started around, I want to say 8:30. So we were getting there early just because originally when we had built this event, Zach wanted to make sure that if we had 24 players, we could do like a five round event the first day, second day cut to top 8 and do in the second day, and then have the Underworld speed dating event for those who wanted to stay and just play.
Okay.
So we started a little early still, even with that. So started early, got in, a little bit tired, but super pumped, a little nervous as well, because again, this was a World Championship Qualifier.
Yeah.
And I had attempted to go to one before in Tampa of last year. Did not unfortunately get to go from that one, but I was nervous because also I think, at least for us, this was a huge pool of top talent in the Southeast coming.
Yeah.
So I think that was the other thing, was my nerves going, these are some of the best players in the Southeast that I've played with or gotten to know, and they're all coming for that ticket. It's not just me. So
right.
It was a little nerve-wracking, but we shook those nerves, got in some great games overall, ended up playing 3 great guys, and then taking it all at the end, and 3 rocking hard games. Really difficult games. Zach did it similar to Worlds, though, for this, so you had to play all 3 games, even if you won the first 2.
Okay.
And the reason for that was, even though we only really had the ticket to Worlds as the winning, he wanted to make sure for glory differentials for second, third, and all that, a number of games played would help with that. Um, just to make sure that if you were going to get blown out in a game, you had an opportunity to still try and, maybe even though you lost two, you could win the third game, get some glory, and not get stuck. Um, just completely getting blown out and then dropping really far because you just couldn't score enough.
Yeah. Yeah, the glory differential piece has been, it's been brought up a lot in a lot of discussions, both in our podcast and other podcasts. And I think trying to figure out whether that's the best metric for tiebreakers or not. I think it's up to each individual TO, but I'm glad that people are having a discussion, because what it means is that we have a level of play where players are fairly equally balanced, or the numbers don't necessarily work for the amount of time that's been allotted.
Right.
So these tiebreakers are becoming more important. And that just, to me, it shows that, there's more thought being put into the game, which is only going to make the competitive play better.
And, to comment on that, I think it's really, I lost Tampa because the person who was running the event chose, instead of to do total glory scored over number of games played. If it had been number of games played, I would have won, but I lost by 4 points on glory.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and nothing to that person. I don't, no shade or anything like that. They were very helpful. They actually were not an Underworld's judge. They were a 40K judge who came and helped because the Underworld's judge got sick. But it was something where now, after having that happened, I've definitely, when we look to host events or do things, the difference, between, well, what matters more, the amount of glory you scored, the amount of games you played, who was your opponent. That, I think it's a really big talking piece that genuinely matters, especially in these larger events when we're cutting to like top eights and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I have definitely participated in events that I ranked higher because of the way that the secondaries were secondaries. There's the 40K creeping in, the way that the tiebreakers were allotted, just because, they went with glory differential instead of strength of schedule. I think most tournaments are running game wins versus losses. So 2-0ing opponent is better than going, 2-1 in a match. And that's where I think forcing the play for the best of three, I think that can really start to matter, because then you can really get into that, right? Did you 3-0 every opponent every round? Well, that's going to show a stronger play for you than somebody else that has the same record that went 2-1 every round. Right. And that makes a pretty clear tiebreaker, over glory differential, over whatever, whatever strength of schedule or whatever. So anyway, so that's cool. As far as like the feel of the event, are you guys like tucked away in a corner and you're having to listen to the rabble and the chatter coming from AOS and 40K? Did you guys feel like you had your own spot? Was it somewhere in between?
So we did have kind of our own spot. They had actually gotten, again, like 2 massive table areas for us just in case we got up. We had a cap of 24. Did not make that with only 8, but it definitely felt like they actually like had a space carved out for us. We were kind of tucked right behind AOS near, they had Star Wars Legion, they had Star Wars Legion and also Marvel Crisis Protocol. So we were kind of stuck between those, which was kind of nice because we were also near the food. So a lot of AOS players walked by and said, "Oh, I didn't realize there was an Underworlds event. Next year, I would like to participate in this." So
nice.
It was able to kind of, in a way, even though we were tucked a little bit in the back because everyone was going to grab like food and stuff or drinks, they would go by and see us and go, "Oh man, there's an Underworlds event." And we had multiple people say, "Oh, I wouldn't have played AOS. Like, I knew I was going to lose at that. I could have done better at this." And I'm like, "Well, we're going to do it next year." So I think we have luck of us 8 showing up again at least, but hopefully, next year having even more players and hitting that 24, I think would be really amazing to see.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I know it's on the short list for me next year. It's a relatively easy trip. Yeah. I could take the wife and the kids and like drop them off like in the mountains somewhere, and then make the rest of the way to Cherokee, pick them back up on the way out. turn it into a thing, maybe make a longer weekend out of it, where I get to spend some time in the mountains with the family too, around that weekend. I'm excited to see it continue. I like that FLG is considering Underworlds to be like in that list of top tier competitive games.
Right.
It was branded by Games Workshop as the ultimate competitive miniatures game for a long time. And I personally think that it is and has the strong potential to really be. That's a whole other podcast around maybe why it isn't as popular, but we won't go into that here. Cool. So you had your own space, you felt like you were actually part of the event and not some sideshow, which is really cool. The food was all day, like all day buffet all day.
Yeah.
And
so they
included
had
in admission.
No. You had to pay for it, but
okay.
It was cheaper than anything else on site, which I'll give them credit for. The first day they did, they had like breakfast for us. They also had that night they did barbecue. I legit had one of the best brisket sandwiches I've ever had in my life there. So
nice.
Pretty nice. And then they did Mexican one of the other nights as well.
Okay.
So they had a couple of different options every day, which was kind of nice. And honestly, like I said, the food was nice to be able to go. It was a little bit more expensive than getting like some of the going off site a little bit, but still cheaper than their own places.
Sure.
And just nice to be able to, if you're in the middle of something, if you want a snack or something, because they had like a bunch of chips and like candy and other things, you can just go grab that, and go back to your table really quickly without having to rush to your room or remember to bring a whole bag of snacks or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to hide beverages. The bar is right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you're there. So you're also on Path to Glory. Yes. So we're going to save the round by round, the full like technical breakthrough. So I'll say it now. I'll say it later. I would encourage anybody that's listening to this episode to go check out the Path to Glory episode with Bryce and Aman and George and Zach. For the in-depth kind of technical, tactical walkthrough of the event. But just real brief. So it looks like in round one, you played against Zach. So that was your Xandar's Breakneck versus what was Zach running?
Chosen Axes Void Cursed. And anyone who knows Zach knows that man has loved Chosen Axes for years, and he has played them so long, and he will take you to town with a warband that everyone says is terrible.
Yeah.
Good, tough games, close games. I won the first two, and then he won the third one. Literally won by 1 point, both of our games. Just very close.
That is close.
Fuel can deal 4 damage and kill a model instantly, and I have no way of stopping it without... I have the only card in my deck that stops it is Roll with the Punches. I don't have any plus wounds. I don't have any -1 damage cards. So a little bit scary, but definitely close games. Zach is my regular opponent, so I play him a lot. So I kind of know how he plays, but he also knows how I plays. So he helped me build this deck with him. And then I was like, round one, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. So still great games. A lot of fun. I love playing Zach, but yeah, super close. And people need to be on the lookout because, man, if he brings Chosen Axes into you, it's scary.
Yeah, I love so we get to talk to Zach pretty regularly, just between various forms of remote play and just having conversations because we're all in the Southeast, and like every new Rivals deck that comes out, we're like, okay, what is Zach gonna cook up? Like, are we gonna get a Chosen Axes Masks deck? I don't know.
He tried it.
Maybe.
It was okay.
Yeah, right. They want to be on objectives anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's awesome.
He's a mad scientist. I will say he, unfortunately, sometimes makes it difficult because I'll be like, I want to play into this matchup. And he goes, oh, I have this really weird. And I'm like, no, play the one that everyone else plays. I can't have you play. No one else is going to play your weird stuff. As cool as it is, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. I need some actual event practice, please, Zach. Nobody is going to bring... I don't know, Elethane Soul Raid plus Deadly Depths. I'm not going to face that matchup.
Yeah.
I'm gonna laugh if that's like the next big thing. Anyway, all right. So you played Zach, and then it looks like you played Kaylin Harshaw. So
Right.
what did Kaylin bring?
Kaylin brought Razor's Mask. I actually met Kaylin in Tampa,
Okay.
which was really cool. He lives out in Savannah and was super excited to catch up with him again. He had brought Razors because he wanted to play something new that he felt people may not have as much practice into, and that was also his reasoning for bringing Mask. Um,
Okay.
Unfortunately for him, I Zach has been on a Razors POP kick, and I
Okay.
have played that matchup a ton. So he really could not keep up with me. Even though he longboarded me all 3 games,
Oh wow.
um, I just took him to town very quickly in the first game. Did not expect me to have. I started with a great hand of like advances 1 to push all my dudes to get close to him. I had a bunch of the plus movement cards in my hand, so really got into him. Killed the squid. I think I killed. Actually, no, I killed both thralls round 1 because he just didn't realize how much output I had in my
Yeah.
deck. Really quick on that. Ended up winning game 2. He took game 3 off me um, after playing all 3, so I went 2-1. But that deck is scary. I think he said with some reps, I told him I think that deck would be really good. But he just, could not handle the sheer amount of damage I was putting out, and also
Sure.
again having played so much into that matchup with Razors and being longboarded with this deck I had brought, I just kind of knew how to deal with it a lot easier than I think he expected.
Gotcha. Yeah. I really want to play Sirene's Razors more. I just have a hard time getting around the 3 wounds on the thralls. And I say this as a Sons of Elmorn player that has 3 wound fighters in it, but
Yeah.
um, I
It's a
guess
heavy
having
war
5
band.
fighters makes the difference on that one. But
Right.
all right. And then for the final, it was against Brandon Huss.
Yep.
I know Brandon. He has come up to our area to play before. We've gone down to his area to play before.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, a solid player. I've played him in the remote leagues before. So what's he bringing?
So he brought Mad Mob Force of Frost.
Okay.
About a couple of weeks ago, we held a event when Death Gorge came out for a glass. He brought this very similar. He brought this deck, and I was playing at the time Velmoirn Void Curse Thralls into it. Absolutely decimated me like 22-5, and I was
Nice.
like, "Oh wow, I definitely need some practice into this." So got some practice into it. He was the one that I was the most afraid out of seeing out of everybody, just because
Sure.
nothing against anyone else there, but I think at the end of the day, we both kind of knew more than likely us two would be sitting there at the top table playing.
Yeah.
Um, so sat down, played that. That matchup is tough. Mad Mob is always a tough fight just because of their ability to score. Uh, I had a horrible game 1. I've never replaced dice so many times and still missed attacks. I don't think I hit a single attack the entire game. Lost 15-5, and was like, I'm about to lose my ticket to Worlds. This is it. Like, dice are just going to fail. It is what it is. But ended up pulling the last 2 games out 16-14, 17-15.
Okay.
Very close games.
That's tight.
Yeah. And very big scoring on my part at the beginning, but him pulling it back still really well at the end
Yeah.
to bring it so close. I mean, it's very hard to stop the Mad Mob 3 Glory third in phase card. It's just really difficult.
Right.
And he was scoring it almost every game. For a fun thing, I'll say my literal win was on a dice roll. I had literally last round, I was sitting there, had cards in my hand to score, but I had to get a kill. Last activation of the game, I had put the Hurricane Dart on Zandire
Okay.
and rolled 1 single dice with it into Wallop, who was trapped, and rolled a crit and killed him.
Ugh.
So it was literally that 1 kill, rolling that 1 crit that got it for me. Otherwise, I probably would have lost that game. But
Yeah.
they were great games. Really were super tactical. It was one of those ones where at the end of the day, it came down to just dice. It wasn't someone did a misplay. We played every play was as perfect as it could possibly be to make the situation to win.
Yeah.
So got to give Brandon a huge shout out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure if there's another ticket to Worlds near him, he will try and get it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he is also at Worlds, because he's a great player.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I love and hate when games come down to a single die roll. I think it speaks to the level of play that is happening at the table when that happens. But it is so nerve-wracking. And I have found when that happens to me, I'm always going back and I'm second guessing like every decision that I made in that game along the way. Like, how did I end up here? How did I end up where what I need this attack to land in order to win this game? Like, is there anything that I could have done differently? And my favorite moments were like, no, like I played the best that I could. My opponent played the best that they could. And so the thing to remember is that this is a game that involves dice. And so there is an element of luck. Between the dice and your card draw, there is an element of luck in this game. And you have to understand that when you play it. We're not playing chess.
Right.
Like, if you want a fully balanced game where there is no luck involved, well, there's even still some luck there, because I think the going first advantage is it's not insignificant in chess. It's not like it's 70-30, but at top levels of play, like that's the most decisive factor. So that's awesome. It sounds like it was a great time. I think it is really cool that Zach decided to run the event, that you ran all 3 rounds. A, it just means that you get more games of Underworlds in, and everybody loves that. And B, like, it gives everybody a chance to really like meet those tiebreakers, to figure out and really get granular on the ranking, right? So I 2-0'd. I went 2-0, 2-0, 0-2. Somebody else went 0-2, 2-0, 2-0. Well, how do we know like whether I should be in, third place or fourth place? Like, I don't know, and so this just gives more levers to pull when you're looking at how to rank people, which is really cool. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. And like you said, I'll shout Brandon Huss out too. He's not just a good player, but like a good opponent too.
Oh yeah,
like, he's always super gracious. He's always, super amicable. I have enjoyed every time I played against him. He and I have run against each other like in prepping for events before. So super friendly in that regard. Shout out to him as well. All right, so you wrap up. You find out that you win. You've got your qualifier ticket for Atlanta. So, come November, you're just going to have to hop in the car and drive, an hour and a half away to get to Worlds, right? What was the rest of the night like? So 8 people.
Yeah. Oh, we ended up playing right after that. Unfortunately, Kalen was not able to stay for the Sunday event, and I told him I really wanted to play. He had brought his beautifully painted Gore Chosen and really wanted to play, and I wanted to play my list that I was playing tomorrow in the speed dating event, which was I brought Hexbane Mask.
Okay.
And so wanted to play that. Played some games with him. Unfortunately, I think he did not have as much practice with Gore Chosen, and unfortunately, I got lucky. I'll tell you right now, I am the worst Hexbane player that probably ever lived.
Nice.
I'm not very good with them, so gotten better. But man, I've always been really bad with that warband. I don't know what it is about them. Either I miss everything or I just misplay bad stuff. Ended up going to dinner after that, and then we grabbed a couple of drinks, and then went back and we played some 4-player games actually.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun. We kind of had the younger kids play with themselves over there with like 3-player game, and then we had 4 players with me, Brandon, forgetting his friend's name that came with him. It was really great, and Zach, all just drinking and playing a 4-player game and rolling absolutely absurd amount of crits and laughing and just really having a grand old time. Really enjoyed it. It was a great way to have a moment that was so tense between me and Brandon, where we literally, after it was done, was like, we are both sweating and we need to stand up and like walk away from this table.
Yeah.
And then to go to that and have just a great camaraderie of us, hanging out and chilling, relaxing, having a few drinks, and just really getting to play and have fun with it. And also, I'd never played a multiplayer game like that. I've done the Gargant scenario, but I've never done like 4-player fights. So
Yeah.
the 4-player fight was it was a lot of fun. It was actually really enjoyable, and I definitely something I want to keep actually doing with some of my locals here.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a lot of fun. The decks that you build are very different.
Right.
If you know that you're playing a multiplayer game. So just, as you think about that, if you think about planning one, if you don't want to just go into it blind, just review the rules, understand that like turn order changes every battle round, that, like holding objectives might be a little easier if you need to hold a certain number, because now there can be up to 9 objectives and the numbers add up, right? So like it could be like 1 or 6 or like, 2, 4, or 8. So keep that in mind. And then also, if you have a kill X number of fighters or X number of fighters out of action, that number tends to go up in multiplayer games. So just bear that in mind as you're building your objective deck.
Yeah,
and diving into that.
I had a completed pack from the mass deck, which just says have more surviving fighters with mass than enemy fighters. And I went, I'm going to pitch this. I will never score this probably.
Yeah, right? Unless it just becomes like a murder fest in the middle of the board round 3. You might, that's probably not going to be worth it. Hank Hunt is
Hank,
is your
great
4th
guy.
there. Yeah.
Absolutely one of the funniest guys. His first activation of round 1 in that 4-player event, he goes, well, he was playing the Dreadfaint Stormcast. I always forget their name. The Sacrosanct ones.
Condemners.
He was playing Condemners, and he made a move action to go into Brandon who was playing Rippas, and he goes, "You sure you want to do that? I'm gonna kill your guy." And Hank just goes, "I'm ready to go to bed. I don't want to do this." Just kill my model. Laughed about it. He survived that whole game. We made sure.
Of course he
had
did.
to stay the whole time.
Yeah. Perfect.
Super fun though. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Fun. So, what was the vibe in the hall like at this point? Like, is this happening everywhere else? Are like people that have been like smashing faces into each other in 40K and AOS and Legion MCP? Like, are they sitting around? Like, are they having drinks? Are they chit chatting? Have they moved on to other things?
I think a lot of them probably left. I think the thing with those games is a lot longer games, a lot more going on, I think, in some cases, and just a lot of them weren't getting like pickup games. They really didn't have like a pickup game area as well. I know that was something that was at Tampa that I thought was really cool, that you could just show up and like play on their really nice boards. But most players were already gone, played all day in the 40K and AOS, and then just kind of left. And not really anybody staying around, which was kind of nice because, we had a few drinks. We got a little loud. We were laughing, being probably a little obnoxious in some ways, but just having a good time. And again, shout out to Kicker again. They were supposed to close the hall at 10. He said, "Y'all can stay as late as you want." He was like, "I love this camaraderie. I love the kindness that you guys have with each other, and like showing how fun this game is." And I've had some players literally come up and say, "Hey, are you doing this again next year?" To have Underworlds was really great, and he loved that. So we got to stay a little bit late, which was super nice again of him, and just hang out and play games until we got really late, and then we all kind of collapsed and went up to bed.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, and so you guys got up the next day. You had it was a Nemesis event, but 5 rounds, best of 1.
Right.
Nice. Couldn't do the twofer though?
No, I did not win.
You let Brandon have the speed dating one?
I didn't get to face him, first of all, so I want to make that clear.
Okay, fair enough.
But no, he ended up taking that one. We have a joke, actually. He won. So whenever we have a tournament that doesn't have a shade glass, we have a cup that Zach made. It's just a coffee cup. It has like champion on it or whatever. Yeah. And Zach always brings it and says, whoever wins the event gets to keep the cup. Well, he's won every single event he's brought it to. So he's brought it home. Finally, Brandon won. So Brandon is now the official holder of the cup.
Okay.
So good for him. However, we do have a challenge thing now where whenever we do an event, they have to bring the cup washed, and then whoever wins it gets to take it home now.
There you go.
Around.
Nice.
But yeah, It was fun. I enjoyed that. I played, like I said, I played Hexbane Mask in that. Ended up going 3-1 because I got to buy one round.
Okay.
But I loved that deck. That was a lot of fun getting to play that. Um, my only loss was into TT Soul Raid, and that loss came
Ugh.
down to he rolled so many crits, and I never made a successful attack basically because he rolled so many crits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Toxic Terror Soul Raid is nasty in and of itself.
Yeah.
Right. So, well, that's cool. And so then, I mean, you guys wrapped on Sunday. I assume you and Zach headed back, and like
Yep.
that was the wash for the weekend.
Absolutely. Yep. Super quick, super nice.
Yeah.
It is nice to kind of have an opportunity to go to something like that. I've gone to Adepticon, I've gone to the Tampa US Open, other gaming conventions, and like it was nice to just have the opportunity to say, hey, Friday, took the day off work, drove up in the afternoon, played Saturday, played Sunday, an early event, and then came home, Sunday night.
Nice. Well, I hear there's this little event at the end of August, beginning of September. The Underworld's it's a qualifier event. It's only one day,
Mm-hmm.
so you could drive up on Saturday, take the day off on Monday, drive back.
That is
I don't know if you've heard of Nova.
I want to come to Nova. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's in my plans. I am going to Gen Con this year.
Oh yeah, those are yep. Gen
It's a little
Con's
bit
right at the
right at the
beginning of
start.
August, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going. Like I said, I'm a big RPG player, and I am going to represent the Pirate Board role playing game. I'm
Okay.
good friends with the creator, and so I'm going up there to help run some events. My first time going to Gen Con, so super
Nice.
excited for that. Play some games up there, and run some RPGs. But I would love to go to Nova. I know Zach is interested in going to Nova, so you might see him there.
Yeah.
But I would love the opportunity to go to Nova. Like I said, I've been to Adepticon. I have not gotten a chance to go to Nova yet. So
Okay. Yeah. I want to go to Gen Con at some point. Um, it's going to be tough with
yeah,
Nova being kind of our flagship event every year,
right,
just because of the timing. But I mean, it's really like a board gaming, tabletop gaming, RPG convention, right? Like
right,
it's like a real convention. Like my
mm
understanding is the vendor hall is like crazy huge.
right,
Like there's as much shopping to do there as there is gaming, and that
yeah,
is unique to Gen Con. Like not every
absolutely,
other event is going to have that. Like Nova has its vendor hall. My understanding is that like the GW events just have a GW store, but like other
right,
events have like a vendor hall.
right.
But my understanding is there's nothing like Gen Con when it comes to gaming. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
can catch all the demos, you pick up all the pre-orders, get all the
mm
special limited edition whatevers,
yeah,
gadgets and doodads and acrylic tokens and things for the games that you play. So it's definitely on the list. Well, that's awesome. I mean, so what's the focus now? Like, are now that you've got your qualifier ticket, like, what are you thinking about between now and November?
Well, not super sure at the moment. We've got another shout out I'll do for a world qualifier event we're hosting in Georgia at Dice Goblin Games. That is on April 7th, which is a Sunday. Super excited to have that. We were supposed to hold one in December of last year. Unfortunately, we had no attendees for that. Just I think timing wise was not great for that one. But have that. I'm going to try to be at that one to help TO it and kind of make sure everything goes smooth for that. I am tempted to go back to Tampa and play in the Underworlds event just to play some games. My brother lives close to Tampa, so it's an opportunity to go visit him and also
Cool.
get some more fun games in. But for now, really, it's weird because it's so far off that like I do want to start like prepping, but so much is coming out that it's like
Yeah.
hard for me to go. Oh, I'm going to pick this one warband and hope nothing else good comes out to make me change what I want to play with this
Yeah.
warband.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm playing. On the I'm in the remote play league as well, so doing that for the first time, having a lot of fun with that, getting to play some people all over the U.S. that I've not had the opportunity to meet, or in some cases met people who are going to be at Worlds already, who have either won their qualifier or coming from last year, and that is really great to be able to kind of see and meet some of these people that I'll have the opportunity to meet in person when I go to Worlds.
Cool. That's exciting. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, that's great. So, we've heard about the event, and you shouted out the Warzone Atlanta that you guys are going to be hosting. We'll make sure that we link that in the show notes. But I guess at this point, we could probably just wrap the show. Normally we cut for a break, but I think this is kind of a natural conclusion. So we've got Warzone Atlanta coming. We've got all the GW events coming down for the rest of the summer. Nova Open registration is open. So if you are thinking about attending that, you can get your ticket. The Underworlds event is a 1-day, 5-round on Sunday. And so we would love to see you there. Anybody that's listening. But outside of that, I guess we'll wrap things up. So for the Battle Mallet podcast, we are two Xandire's Truth Seeker lovers. This is Jerod signing out.
This is Bryce. Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone. And in honor of Jason, get the hell out of here. The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.